It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Labor Day Monday. Thank you for taking the time to join us here inside the Cogswell Motors studio, home of RiverValleyLeader.com. We have got a lot of good stuff today. The Hogs open the season with a big win over Louisiana Lafayette. I am joined today in studio by Matty Lassiter, as always. He's got a microphone today, so he's going to get to chime in a little bit. And Brad Caldwell is going to call in here in just a little bit, but we are joined in studio by the assistant coach of the Pottsville Apaches high school team and the head coach of the Pottsville junior high basketball team, Mr. Garrett Hill. Coach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
You got to bring that microphone to you. Now, he's going to be a little timid on us, and I'm not going to allow it. So I'm just going to make fun of him until he starts saying things like he would in regular conversation. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to look at the Hogs. We're going to look at the NFL season as it kicks off on Thursday. We're also going to preview high school football a little bit as they get out on the gridiron Friday night, and we've got a couple games that we'll feature this week at RiverValleyLeader.com. But I really look forward to talking some Hogs today. There's a lot of stuff that I saw in Saturday's game that is not quite what I expected. Now, there were some things that I saw that I really expected, but I was excited to see guys like Alex Collins, and boy, did he not disappoint one bit.
Yeah, he's great. He really didn't even have to dance and juke and everything. He just lowered his head and ran people over.
He did a lot of that, and Jonathan Williams had the 75-yard touchdown run, but Alex Collins ended up with, I think, 131 yards on 21 carries. I think, Matty, we said the other day that we'd like to see him get 15 to 20 touches. Actually, I think I said between 12 to 15 touches, and here he is with 21. Jonathan Williams had 18. I think the reason that Alex Collins had so many carries is because Jonathan Williams had that little stinger. He went out for just a little bit with a shoulder injury. I was worried, man, when that happened. I was like, man, please don't let him be hurt bad, because as good as Alex Collins had looked, I don't know that he could take that punishment for very long. But Jonathan Williams ended up with 151 yards. So you had two guys over 130 yards for the Razorbacks. And you saw in the first series, Garrett, where Coach Bielema, it was just like he and Chaney were saying, all right, this is what we're going to do. They just ran, pass touchdown.
Yeah, they came out and established the running game really fast right off the bat, and they just ran it right all the way down the field.
And, the receiving corps stepped up as well. You had Javonte Herndon, who had 2 touchdowns. Hunter Henry, 5 catches for 75 yards. I was impressed with that guy. He's going to be an All-American one day. He's already he looks like $1 million as a freshman.
Yeah, he was catching the ball, and the defenders were just bouncing off of him. One play he caught it over the middle, and they hit him as soon as he caught the ball. He held on to it, and one of the defenders actually ended up on the ground and laid there for a while.
Well, the defenders did, and that's what's going to happen with these guys. They get in Ben Herbert's system, and they get beefed up, and nobody's going to want to hit them. They're just going to be like, yeah, Kiro Small, see you in the hole. I'm just going to go the other way. I watched a couple plays that, it didn't – people wouldn't notice it if you weren't paying attention and looking for it, but Kiro Small was putting a hurting on folks. He stepped up in the hole on one of them. The linebacker stepped forward on him, and he thought better of it immediately, and Kiro Small just pancaked him. It was nice. And then his touchdown catch was nice too.
His touchdown catch was great. He put the brakes on over there on the sideline and let the guy fly by him, and then he got to about the 2 or the 3 yard line and just lowered his shoulder, and I think he ran through a couple defenders even.
Yeah, he did, and it was a nice touchdown there for Kiro Small, who actually, I think he touched the ball more last year or Saturday than he did all the year before last. Obviously, he didn't play last year because he was injured, but the year before last, when he was on the field the whole season, he touched the ball more in one game, 4 rushes and 3 catches, than he did the whole year before. So they know he's in the game plan.
Yes, he's strong and he runs hard and he is not afraid of contact whatsoever.
Oh, he enjoys it.
Yeah,
he's a grown man out there. I think he's like 23 years old.
He's like a linebacker. He's a linebacker playing fullback. That's really what he is.
He's a JUCO linebacker turned fullback who keeps account of how many face masks he smashed. So you're in good shape when you've got that guy on your team. Speaking of good shape, I was excited to see Brandon Allen play as well as he did. He started out hot. He had a couple passes that were dropped on him and a couple things that, he didn't make, but maybe 2 decisions the whole day where I was just like, that wasn't the best read or that wasn't the best throw. But he finished 15 of 22 for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. Couldn't have asked for a better performance to start the season from Brandon Allen.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring that up. That I think we talked before, and that's who I told you that I was really the most impressed with out of everything, because if our running game gets established like it's going to get established just about every game, the only throws he's going to have to be able to make are little seam routes, slants, outs. He's not going to have to make the big time throws for Arkansas to move the ball. So I was very impressed. Just about every throw was where it needed to be.
Yeah, well, and the one thing I love, when we talked about this previewing last week, they're not going to put him in positions like they did last year with the idiot parade that they had at coaching staff there, where they're just going to say, okay, go out there and make every throw in one series. And they're going to put him in positions to where, he's going to be easily successful. I don't mean that it's going to be completely simple, but I'm saying they're going to make him have simple reads, this guy across the middle or this guy on the seam or this guy on an in and out, just real simple things. And you saw whenever they built his confidence up, that first series, they took away all the butterflies and all the nerves from Brandon Allen by saying run, and then he got a simple throw here and there, and it worked. And then they get down to the goal line, and he throws a touchdown pass. Well, you guys just wait on a little bit of a breakdown from that, because we're going to give away some high school football tickets later on. We'll talk about that momentarily. But then as the game moved on and he went from throwing these short routes, he's throwing the seam route to Hunter Henry, and that's not an easy throw to make. And I guess the second touchdown pass was one of those where the run had set it up so much that play action came and they throw it deep down the middle, and that's a big time throw that he made, and the guy was not wide open. There was a defender right there, and he made a throw just right where it needed to be for a touchdown. Brandon Allen's very impressive.
He is. He had a great first game, and I mean, honestly, Louisiana's defense was not terrible. They did all right again, and they kept us from just breaking big plays aside from the Jonathan Williams touchdown. But that's what I was going to say. The run game really set up the play action pass all day, really, and we obviously are going to throw it to our tight ends over the middle a ton, because Hunter Henry caught. How many balls did he end up catching? He had
5 catches, but he had a fumble and a drop, and at least one drop.
So we're obviously going to utilize him over the middle. He's got great hands. He was a great high school basketball player too, so he's athletic and he's going to be able to run. So he's going to be a mismatch over the middle for most teams.
And Sprinkle looked pretty good. 2 catches for 22 yards.
Huge.
And wasn't he like a defensive end or something at one point? I think he was another position. Then he turns into a tight end. He's just he's a freak as far as size goes. Maddie said something about how he thought, is that Chris Gregg out there again? Because he's a big guy, big target. And eventually he'll be very good too. Hunter Henry's a pro though, so I don't know.
He's very DJ Williams-esque.
3 years from now, you may be saying bye-bye Hunter Henry, so that's
He's very similar to DJ Williams.
Yeah, I liked what I saw there. The defense, we'll talk a little bit about our takeaways from the game. Defense only gave up 14 points. Looking back at our previews from last week, I had the score being 31-20. Brad had it 31-17. So Arkansas's offense outperformed our expectation. Their defense outperformed our expectation. So altogether, we have nothing to be upset about regardless. But there were some things that I was kind of about from watching the game. That Broadway, the quarterback for Louisiana Lafayette, though, I thought the defense did an incredible job on him. He had 13 carries for -1 yards. Of course, he was sacked several times. So the defense in the second half, especially the defensive line, stepped up and got after him.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference was. The whole first half, I was thinking, why we're not getting any pressure on the quarterback, and he stood back there forever, and eventually he found somebody open. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if the coaches saw something from the first half and made a change during halftime to get more pressure on him, but the second half was completely different. I mean, we came. I think their first play of the second half, we sacked him.
Yeah,
and I don't know that we'd sacked him. I mean, I don't know if that we sacked him at all the entire first half. So I don't know what the difference was. I don't know if the guys just started playing harder, or if the coaches made some kind of change at halftime,
Yeah,
but it
or
was
if they
completely different.
just walked in and broke a foot off in their rear end at
Yeah,
halftime.
I
Said,
don't
Chris
know.
Smith, hey, you're first team All SEC defensive end. Why don't you get in the backfield? Hey, Trey Flowers, you're a grown man against this little Louisiana Lafayette punk over there. Why don't you push him down and go get the sack?
Yeah,
And they did in the second
Flowers
half.
was unbelievable the second half.
Dude, he looks like $1 million too.
was.
I was very impressed with that. They got the interception off the just tremendous pressure
Yeah.
that the defensive line was able to put on in the second half. You got a defensive end, or I guess a defensive. Yeah, I guess Jermichael Winston is a defensive end who gets an interception off a tip
Yep.
ball. I have to go ahead real quickly while we're heaping all this praise on the Razorbacks and say, Will Hines, dude, you need to grow some hands because that one
Hey,
hit him right in the hands.
There's
and he
two
dropped
of them. He had two pretty solid chances at an interception, but it always goes back. There's a reason he's playing defense.
Exactly.
And he's not playing wide receiver on offense.
He on
His
that
coverage
one,
was
man.
great. I will say his coverage was great.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Great all day long. And the weak, or the negative to the defense was over the middle. I think our linebackers really were lacking in coverage. That may be just because we were rushing the quarterback and trying to eye the quarterback the whole game. But over the middle, they really hurt us. Their tight end had quite a few catches, it seemed like, and also they caught a lot of balls out of the backfield too, just leaking out. So the middle and the flat, they got to get better.
Yeah, I definitely. That's one of the things that I wanted to look at here in just a little bit because there were a couple things that kind of irked me as far as what was left open, and that's one of those things that it'll have to get fixed, and I think it will. I mean, they'll watching Tevin Mitchell too. That was another scary thing because it seemed like they went at him for a little while, and he was supposed to be the best one of the defensive or of the cornerbacks because he looked like. And some of the people, we had a bunch of kids over at our house, and some of them were making fun of him because it looks like his helmet and his head is just bigger than everything else, and he's just like he's real small down in shoulders down. So people were man, what's this guy? But he's supposed to be the best one in coverage. So if he can get to where he can tackle, I feel like they'll be in good shape. So we've got plenty more talk about the Razorbacks. I know we wasted most of our first segment talking about. We're excited, okay? The Hogs got a 34-14 win. But real quickly, let's take a look at our Peters Family Living local sports look. This week opens high school football season as the local teams will be traveling or staying at home to open their football seasons. We'll be live on location. Ryan Smith, our new intern, will be at Pottsville for Pottsville Heber Springs, which I think is going to be a good game there at 7 o'clock in Pottsville. I'll be at Morrilton for Russellville at Morrilton, that big rivalry game that opens every season. Russellville looking to get a win and start a good season here in the 6A there at Morrilton. We've also got Clarksville playing at Charleston. I'm not going to lie, as a Clarksville alum, that's not going to look pretty in my opinion.
Morrilton looked great in there.
Morrilton did? Or Charleston?
Morrilton looked great. Or did you say Charleston?
Yeah, Charleston's who Clarksville's playing.
Yeah.
Did you see Morrilton play?
Morrilton looked great. That's another one of the upcoming games. They look great against Ozark in their benefit game.
Well, good.
Ozark went to the state championship last year in 4A, and Morrilton handled them.
Well, good. Well, Russellville's got a good game on their hands on Friday.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
Well, I'll be there at Russellville taking some pictures for at least the first half. I've got to go to Lamar in the second half, but I'll be taking some pictures at Russellville for the first half, and then Ryan Smith will be covering the Pottsville Heber Springs game on Friday night. Clarksville, Charleston, Dardanelle is going to play at home against Danville. That's a big one, the Judges Cup there in Dardanelle. Always a big game. And every time that I'm there at that game on the field, it's hilarious to me because those kids and those coaches do not like one another.
They don't. It's a huge rivalry, maybe the biggest rivalry around here. I mean, they always bring out the cowbells, and they are serious about this game.
Your wife's going to be over there screaming her head off, isn't she?
No, probably not.
She's
probably
a
not.
Dardanelle cheerleading coach in the junior high there. Dover is going to travel to Atkins. That's the Rivals Cup. That's a big game as well as far as rivalries go on Friday night. Hector's going to play Hartford on Friday. They're going to be, let's see where that game's going to be. Lamar's playing Gravett at home. And then Two Rivers is going to play Tuesday night against Hector. They're going to host Hector on Tuesday night. Hector's got a 9th grade quarterback coming up who is apparently just a freak. They said in the scrimmage he was lighting people up, and we have his name written down here somewhere. I'll find it.
His name is Tanner Gaines.
Tanner Gaines, the ninth grader from Hector. He's supposed to be really good. So we look forward to some big high school football matchups this weekend. We'll preview those coming up on Wednesday as well. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we'll go across the college football landscape, and we'll preview the NFL.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Garrett Hill, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studio. Glad to be bringing you the latest in sports. Even though it's Labor Day, we are laboring. Of course, you can't really call this work. This is just fun. We'd do this anyway. We'd be sitting around at the lunch table talking sports anyway like we normally do. So we're glad to be bringing you the Sports Blitz today. Thank you for choosing to join us. We're going to talk more about the Hogs here in just a minute. We've got Jason on the line who wants to talk Hogs, so we'll get to it here in just a second. But I wanted to get your thoughts, Garrett, on some of the former Hogs who no longer have jobs in the NFL. Some of them shot themselves in the foot by coming back for a disaster senior season. Some of them feels like they didn't develop quite like you expected them to at the college level, and they were not able to cut it at the NFL level. And some of them you just think they needed a change of scenery. Tyler Wilson cut from Oakland. I feel like he'll make it somewhere else. Kobe Hamilton cut from Cincinnati. I thought that was sort of a surprise. DJ Williams, could not believe that he was cut from Green Bay. I guess that means that Jermichael Finley is back to 100% and that they've got some other guys they can count on. Dennis Johnson, who we heard good things about from the Houston Texans, was cut, and Ronnie Wingo heard a lot of good things about him from the Atlanta Falcons. He's now cut. DJ Williams has landed with Jacksonville and Dennis Johnson with Cleveland, but it's kind of worrisome for me that all these former Petrino guys are now getting cut in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Petrino just does things so different than. I mean, he has a pro style offense, yes, and they pass and they have audibles and check downs and all that. But I mean, I think he had to have just given Tyler, hey, you throw it to A, B, or C, or you throw it away.
Yeah.
Because I mean all the talk out of Oakland said that Tyler was having a lot of trouble reading defenses and finding check downs and finding the open guy. So, but obviously DJ is probably the biggest surprise. He's probably the biggest surprise to get cut. He'd had 2 semi-decent years in Green Bay and was getting to play a little bit. So, yeah, it's got to be Finley being healthy again finally. But obviously he is the biggest surprise. Tyler is the highest draft pick this year to get cut.
Yeah, overall, as far as anybody,
highest player drafted in this year's draft to get cut. Or he got drafted in the 4th round. So
they kept McGloin, didn't they?
Yes.
Instead,
McGloin was
undrafted free agent out of Penn State.
Tyler was one of the. He was basically the last person for the Raiders to cut. So close, but
no cigar.
No cigar.
That sucks, man.
Yeah,
that does suck for Tyler that he wasn't able to make that roster.
He will pick up with somebody else.
I'm sure
this might be a good thing for him because Oakland is where
dreams go to die.
That's where NFL football players go to die. Ask Darren McFadden.
Seriously, he needs to get out of there. I've got Darren McFadden on one of my fantasy teams, and Darren, I won't even be mad at you if you only get about 900,000 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Did you see where here lately they asked him, he's about to be a free agent, and they asked him where he wanted to go, and he said he would like to stay in Oakland.
Because he has to say that.
He
can't say, I'd like to go to Dallas. I'm about to play my last year in Oakland. I'd like to go somewhere else.
No, he has gotten beat up on. They have leaned on him, give him the ball every time, and with no offensive line, and they just say, here, kill him.
Yeah. That's exactly what they've done. And then they've thrown it to him 17 times a game and handed it to him 25 times a game.
He's all they got.
He is literally all they've got. That's not even an over-exaggeration. Like, Ray Rice, he's all... No, they had Anquan Boldner. They had different guys that they could go to. Darren McFadden is literally all that Oakland has. Jason, what do you think about these Razorbacks getting cut? Does it hurt your heart?
Man, you're talking about Dennis Johnson. He was having a great camp. He just couldn't hold on to the fumble, or couldn't hold on to the... Well, he kept fumbling. I want to say he fumbled like 6 or 7 times or something like that, and lost like the majority of them.
I didn't know that. I knew he fumbled some, but I didn't know he fumbled that much.
Yeah, he fumbled like 3 times in one game, but had like 70 yards rushing or something.
Yeah, well,
he had a really good camp, but he just couldn't hold on to the football, which is very. I thought he would make the team even with all those fumbles. But with him picking up with Cleveland right behind Trent Richardson, I think that's going to be a good spot for him.
Yeah, I think it will too. I think it'll look really good. Well, let's quickly move on because we've only got a couple minutes left in this segment. We're talking about the NFL and the Hogs that didn't make it. We'll talk about the Hogs football opener against Louisiana Lafayette here in just a minute. But the NFL kicks off this Thursday in Denver, although it was supposed to kick off in Baltimore. Baltimore didn't get a home game because they had something else going on in the stadium. And now Baltimore has to travel to Denver, who they beat in Denver in the divisional round of the playoffs when Denver was the 1 seed and had home field. They're going back there for the opener. The NFL season begins this Thursday. We've made our predictions, and earlier on, I guess it was about a month ago, we made our predictions, and Weldon and I both agreed that it was going to be hard for San Francisco to not win it because they had so much. Well, they've got injuries left and right now, and to me, it's all sort of wide open again. San Francisco, to me, has the most talent. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta won it. I like Green Bay and Houston. And then Denver right there, to me, a lot of people had them picked, and they were the odds-on favorite by Vegas to win the Super Bowl. All the injuries they've sustained that knocks them down a little bit. I feel like, Garrett, that it's wide open right now in the NFL who's going to win the Super Bowl.
I hope Denver does.
I do too.
Just because
Dallas.
I'm rooting for Peyton Manning. Yes, I mean obviously the Cowboys, but I don't even know that they're in the conversation.
we don't even think about them. We're just like, okay, who's really going to win it?
Yeah, but I'm rooting for Denver. I'd like to see the Colts do well and at least make the playoffs this year. And but like you said, the 49ers are probably the most well-rounded team on offense and defense. I think a full year with Colin Kaepernick playing quarterback will make them very, very tough.
Yeah.
Very tough. He's very hard to defend. It's hard to game plan for somebody that can throw it and run. So they're probably the most well-rounded team. I mean, my heart says Denver, so that's who I'm going for.
I like it. Well, I mean, I'll go for Dallas and then Denver. I can have an AFC and an NFC team. I'm all right with that. Jason, who you got winning the Super Bowl?
My Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hey, Muscle
Is John Gruden coaching again?
Will be vastly improved.
Yeah.
But man, I can't. I don't see anybody beating San Francisco. They just bring too much to the table. Good running game, good quarterback. If their wide receivers can get healthy, I mean, I think they can win it all. They're very talented.
I like it. All right, Jason. Before we get to break here in about 3 minutes, we want to let you we'll let you intro our Hog Talk segment because Brad's going to come on here in just a little bit and spill his guts about what he thinks about the Hogs too. What'd you think about the first game? I'm sure you listened to a little bit of our takeaways. What were your takeaways from Saturday's game?
We're talking about the defense, and it seems like the first half they were more just trying to contain the quarterback. That they really wasn't trying to get a good push, a good rush. That didn't seem like Smith or Flowers was really rushing the quarterback. They were just kind of staying in their gaps trying to contain him. And I think the second half, Ash just said, hey, you pin your ears back and you just go get the quarterback. Because I think between the first half and the second half, they looked like a totally different defense, which was, good on my part, which was good to me because, it just shows what type of talent we have on the defensive line. Now, the linebackers still scare me. Y'all are talking about people coming across the middle and the flats and stuff. That's linebackers. The linebackers should be covering those positions. But if Austin Peters comes back here, and they said it may be 2 or 3 weeks now instead of 6 to 8 weeks, I think that's going to help out a lot. Jared Lickwood started linebacker, but Austin Jones, they kept on saying how good of a linebacker he's going to be. And he's good, but he's not an SEC. I guess he's an SEC linebacker, but he's just not a top-notch SEC linebacker. That's the only thing that worries me is the linebackers.
I'm with you as far as that goes with the linebackers because the linebackers, it scares me when they have to think because linebacker is a reaction position. You shouldn't have to just be thinking all the time. And these guys that are so young and inexperienced, they're out there thinking, and, where am I supposed to be? Oh, there's that guy. I'm going to chase him. Instead of reacting and knowing, this is me, this is where I am, this is where I live, I'm going to punish everybody. They're thinking too much, and then here they are, 10 yards down the field. Rather than making a play, they're trying to save a touchdown. And that didn't necessarily happen in this game, but it will at some point if they're not able to pick things up. I was upset with how many times I saw Louisiana Lafayette guys standing wide open in the middle of the field, and they dropped it. They dropped several passes, or else Arkansas is in a lot worse shape as far as the score goes. They had a couple of drives that were killed by a missed field goal, a drop pass here and there, and I really think the score got out of hand on Louisiana Lafayette because of some mistakes that they made and not necessarily what we did.
Yeah, there were numerous times where they would have a guy wide open and he would drop it, or the quarterback just threw it 5 feet over his head. Or they have an opportunity to get a few more first downs and extend drives. But going back to the linebackers, when you think about the SEC West, it doesn't even come down to even having to stop the short passes over the middle. The linebackers have to be able to plug holes and stop the run. And when you think about the SEC West, that's what they're known for with Alabama and LSU. You saw what LSU did the other night. They ran it right down TCU's throat. Linebackers are who have to be able to come up and plug holes and stop the run. We can't rely on our defensive linemen to stop running backs and meet running backs in holes. Even when we play Texas A&M, Manziel's going to drop back and then he's going to take off right up the middle. Their running back looked great the other day too. The first half before Manziel came in, he really extended drives and gained yards too. So that's also, like you said, the linebackers are probably our weakest position right now.
Jason, what did you think about the offense?
Alex Collins, and he's going to be good. He's going to be real good. He kind of reminds me of a Chris Johnson type almost. He seems like he's real elusive. He's real quick. Of course, he's fast. But, it seemed like we were running, that power off tackle, and they could not stop that. You had Swanson pulling out there, and he's like an extra fullback going through there. And, they just didn't have an answer for that. What I liked about that opening drive is we ran 7 consecutive run plays to start the game. I love that.
Yeah, that was a pretty good point there.
We're gonna line up and we're gonna run the ball. You just try to stop it.
Yeah, he's very. I would say he's very good at running downhill.
They always fall forward.
He hits a hole and he doesn't. I mean, he really doesn't He doesn't Ronnie Wingo it and try and bounce it outside right off the bat.
That's a cuss word around here.
He puts his head down and he keeps going. I mean, he keeps his legs moving and then he's not afraid of contact at all. He just lowers his head and runs somebody over it when it comes time for it.
All right, Jason, we're going to let you go, but not before you answer this question. I'm going to give you two names, and you just go, okay? Hunter Henry, Brandon Allen.
Hunter Henry, the greatest tight end when he leaves University of Arkansas. Brandon Allen, man, they just put him in position to not make mistakes, just to manage the offense, which it was perfect for him. I think Cheney had some great calls for him. They had set up the run and then run a play action. On the passes they ran where, Hunter Henry crosses across the middle. He only probably made, out of the 22 throws, I say he only probably made 2 bad throws. Hunter Henry had a drop. Hunter Henry had a throw in the end zone that he probably should have thought was a bad, it's a tough.
That was a perfect throw.
Tough catch to make. And then the only other throw I thought that it wasn't a good throw was when he threw across his body when he was running out. And I think it was maybe Hawkins open in the end zone and he threw across his body. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need to be making that throw because in the SEC, those D-backs are going to be fast enough to get over there to intercept that pass. But other than that, man, I thought Brandon Allen played great.
I mean, honestly, all Allen has to do, he's going to have to be for Arkansas basically what A.J. McCarron is for Alabama.
Yes.
Just the routine throws, slants and outs over the middle, and turn around and do a great job at handing the ball off.
Yeah, and really, if it comes down to it, if the running backs play the way they have, now there will be teams. You play Alabama, Florida, LSU, to an extent, A&M maybe. You won't let A&M. Arkansas is going to put up some points and some yards on them. Well, you're not going to be able to just overpower some of these teams consistently. You're not going to overpower Alabama. You may get lucky and overpower them every once in a while, but you're not going to be able to overpower them often. You're going to have to change the mentality that Brandon Allen plays with. It won't be, okay, well, here's just an open throw. He's going to have to make some plays. I did see a couple throws that I thought, he'll eventually make that. The deep out for a first down that he threw just a little bit over the head of the receiver was one. And then, but then he came back and that throw to Hunter Henry in the end zone that Henry wasn't able to catch was just a perfect throw. You can't. I mean, you couldn't put it anywhere else. Exactly.
The back couldn't get over there. That was a good throw.
Exactly. So I feel like Brandon Allen's way ahead of schedule for me as far as a redshirt sophomore goes. So, Jason, we'll talk to you again Wednesday. Hopefully, we can talk a little bit about the Samford game.
Sounds good. I'll talk to y'all then.
All right, take it easy. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, Brad Caldwell is going to give us his thoughts on the Arkansas-Louisiana Lafayette game. Much more to come on the Sports Blitz.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out rivervalleyleader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 Today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the Force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 Today.
We're back here on the Sports Blitz. Thank you for joining us on this Labor Day Monday. Mark Freeman, Garrett Hill, Maddie Lassiter, and we're joined on the phone. It's a full house Monday. Brad Caldwell on the line from Huntsville. Today's Peters Family Living poll question. The NFL season starts Thursday. Who do you have winning the Super Bowl? Things have gone back and forth for us with the injuries and whatnot for teams throughout the offseason, but we were all sort of in agreement that San Francisco, Denver, and a couple other ones are atop the heap. I've got San Francisco, but I'm not real confident in it. It's just going to be a fun season regardless. Thursday kicks off with Denver and Baltimore there in Denver to start the season. And then our bonus question of the day, what are your takeaways from Saturday's Razorback football game? We've told you ours. Let's listen to Brad tell his what his takeaways were from Saturday's game. Brad, I'm sure that you being there, you had a little different perspective than I did. You and Garrett both being there, you had a little different perspective than I did. What did you take away from the game?
Very pleased with the first effort, man. The game, they scored 34 points in the game. They left a few out there. That's something that they need to clean up right off the bat. I thought the offensive line was about what we expected, and a lot of people will say, well, that was Louisiana Lafayette. Yeah, you're right, it was. But you've got to remember, Arkansas hasn't pushed around a team in a long time up front, especially on the offensive line. They did a great job in the offensive line, got the running game going. I'll tell you, really, on the running game, my biggest thought is Alex Collins is the best running back on the field. I know that Jonathan Williams ended up with more yards, but he also broke off the 75-yard run because outside of that run right there, I think Alex Collins outperformed Jonathan Williams, and he's the best running back on the team, at least through game one. And we'll see how it goes the rest of the year. But, man, Alex Collins looks good. Jonathan Williams looked good. You know, he averaged well over 5 yards a carry. Both guys did. Both cracked 100 yards. Brandon Allen looked very good offensively. I was pleased with the defense for the most part. I saw the secondary making some plays. I also saw that the second half, they kind of unleashed the beast a little bit. Instead of sitting back and trying to contain Broadway, they actually went after him. And Bielema has commented on that more than once, that they actually went after him a little bit more. Overall, I don't know how you can't be pleased right now as a Hog fan, seeing what we saw last year versus what we saw on Saturday. It was like daylight and dark.
Yeah, it definitely was. Trey Flowers, who had 3 sacks, has been named the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. Not much of a surprise because in the second half, he and Chris Smith, just like you said, they unleashed the beast. And as Garrett mentioned earlier, that they pinned the ears back in the second half, and instead of, I guess it was Jason that mentioned this too, instead of contain, it was attack. And I feel like in the SEC, and really in college football these days, you can't just let a quarterback stand back there all day. He'll find somebody open. You definitely have to, especially even if he's a running quarterback, you have to get after him and make him uncomfortable. And that's what they did to Broadway in the second half of that game. I was impressed with several different guys, but Brad, to your point, Alex Collins, to me, he looks, and I know it was just one game, but I didn't get to watch the scrimmage, and I hadn't seen him live. He looks to me to be the best running back on this team. Jonathan Williams is good. He'll make the good decisions. He's been there. I feel like he's going to be a quality back for Arkansas. But I think by the end of the year, Garrett, it's Alex Collins' job.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, he's by far the most talented one. I think that's the big picture. He's by far the most talented running back. He's bigger. He's faster. So and like I said earlier, I like the fact that he runs downhill. He hits the hole hard, and he just keeps going. He doesn't try and dance around people. He doesn't try and bounce it out. He just finds a hole and hits it.
Brad, your thoughts on the Alex Collins, Jonathan Williams? I don't want to call it a controversy or anything like that, but it's sort of a competition because at the end of the year, they're going to have to decide who they're giving more carries to.
Yeah, they will. SEC play, they're definitely going to have to pick a guy to ride. The biggest thing that I saw with Collins is just his quickness. I mean, the guy has just an extra gear that Williams just doesn't have, but Williams is a little bit more powerful. I actually think that the weight that they put on Williams is actually causing him to be maybe just a little bit slower than he was last year. I mean, it just seemed to be. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I thought the same thing.
But
I thought the same thing. He got hawked down on that 75-yard run, and if it weren't for a clip, he probably would have got caught at about the 5 or 10-yard line. They didn't call it, so he's got that 75-yard touchdown.
Right.
You're right, but he did make a nice cutback to get to the open field, so he's still got a little bit of speed. But he reminds me of Michael Turner. At one point, he was the burner, and then he put on weight, and he wasn't the same player anymore. He was still great, but he was just a different player. And I feel like the weight that they've put on him has been sort of Cedric Cobb's weight. He's still going to be good, but he's just not going to be the same guy he was before.
Right, guys, they have certain weights that they can carry and be effective, and I think he's probably a little bit above. Of course, you got to have weight in the SEC to be able to be a featured back, but I just think by the end of the year, you're going to see Alex Collins get the majority of the carries because he's just that guy. I mean, when you look at the offense, if you look at the times that Jonathan Williams was the main back versus the times that Collins was the main back, the scoring, I think Arkansas scored twice, maybe 3 times for touchdowns without Collins as a guy that was getting the majority of the reps. It's just talent is just going to probably win out. We talked about this maybe about a week ago where I felt like that Alex Collins would probably be the guy that would end up taking all the reps, and I don't believe that anything changed my mind on Saturday. I think that he'll be the guy.
Well, Brad, I think you and Gary, I'm sorry to butt in there. I think you heard our talks and then Jason's bold proclamation, speaking of talent, that Hunter Henry would be the best tight end to ever step foot on the University of Arkansas campus. We'll remember that DJ Williams won the Mackey Award a couple of years ago, so he was the best tight end in the country that year. And he's saying Hunter, and talent-wise, watching Hunter Henry, I don't have any sort of questions about the talent that he has. He's a 4 or 5 star recruit, depending on where you look, for a reason. I'm looking forward to seeing Hunter Henry. What did you think about his performance?
Oh, Hunter Henry looked really good. I was really impressed by him, and really just the freshman class as a whole, the guys that got in there. We've got some talented freshmen, so the Hawks definitely got something to look forward to in a couple of years when these guys are leading the team instead of, just kind of filling their way out. Man, I'll tell you what, Hunter Henry, he's going to be a very good one, but DJ Williams was a very good one too. And I would say pass-catching-wise, Hunter Henry probably won't catch as many passes as DJ Williams, but that don't mean he won't end up being better. He is bigger, and he might be just as fast as DJ Williams was. So I think that he will be a very effective tight end in this offense because if you look at it, really we only had 3 wide receivers that were targeted in the game, and that was Herndon, Hatcher caught one, and then Eric Hawkins. He was thrown one that Brandon Allen threw across his body, which was not a good throw. But those were the only 3 wide receivers that were targeted. And then you throw in Sprinkle, Sprinkle looks like a specimen in my opinion. You throw him and Henry in there. Those were the guys that were targeted, and I think Henry was targeted like 7 times or something like that. So they obviously already believe in what Hunter Henry can do right now.
Yeah. So do you realize what the big the big similarity between DJ Williams and Hunter Henry is?
What's that?
They were both excellent basketball players too.
Yeah, they were. And that makes a big difference here. And as you speaking as a basketball coach, when you have that kind of agility on the field, it makes a difference. And they were both very good basketball players. Although Freddie Lee made Hunter Henry look like he was standing still in that state championship game a couple years ago. Yeah, he was a good basketball player. DJ Williams was an excellent basketball player as well, so it definitely makes a difference.
Well, we got to hit a break, but you know who else would be a really good tight end who's a great basketball player? We were talking about it in the break. LeBron James would be my number one pick in the fantasy football draft as a tight end if he were in the NFL. Now, we've got to hit a break. When we come back, we've got plenty more Hog Talk. I want to look at the rest of the schedule based on what the Arkansas opponents did this weekend. Texas A&M got a win. Alabama looked good. LSU looked good in big games. How does this affect the rest of Arkansas' schedule? We want to look at that here in just a moment.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Final segment of a Labor Day Sports Blitz. Thank you for joining us here on a Monday. Mark Freeman, Garrett Hill, Maddie Lassiter, who has yet to turn on his microphone and say anything.
I can use it.
And Brad Caldwell is on the phone. We've got a lot of stuff to cover in a short amount of time, but that's just the way it's going to be during football season. We've looked at high school football. You can go to rivervalleyleader.com and look at our high school football capsules for this week. You can check out who's playing whom, where those games will be, when they'll be. Thank you to Ryan Smith for taking care of that for me. Looking forward to this weekend where I'm going to be at Russellville, at Morrilton for Russellville-Morrilton. He's going to be at Pottsville for Pottsville-Heber Springs. Lots of great games, and we've got some tickets to give away. Stay tuned on Wednesday as we'll tell you how to win those tickets to high school football games. You can get your pick for whichever team you'd like to go watch just by answering a trivia question. So we'll let you know how to win those here in just a couple days. But we're looking at the Razorbacks' big win, 34-14 over Louisiana Lafayette. And then we're going to look real quickly at the rest of the schedule. But before we do, we want to go over some of the big games that took place this weekend in the world of college football. It's the biggest game. It was number 5 versus number 8. Georgia at number 5 traveled to Clemson, number 8. Clemson comes out with a 38-35 win. Georgia missed a field goal. Well, they didn't miss one. They didn't get a field goal off on a bad snap. But Clemson got the win. Brad, you and I both sort of, I think you might have taken Clemson. I took Georgia, but I liked what I saw from Clemson. Brent Venables' defense looked like one of those old Oklahoma defenses, and Taj Boyd looked really, really good. I wouldn't mind to see them facing Alabama in the national championship game.
That'd be interesting, no doubt. They looked really good. They looked like they may have taken the next step, although I believe if that game had been played in Georgia, Georgia would have won the ball game.
Me too.
It was just that much back and forth.
They should have won it.
Clemson is good enough that Georgia may go on and win every other game the rest of the year. I mean, I thought Georgia looked pretty good too. It was just a good game all around. But Clemson, you picked Clemson to win the ACC. I think that they look like a team that could very well do that. I'm interested to see what my pick tonight of Florida State looks like against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I thought Georgia got a little bit too conservative, especially in the second half. It did keep going back and forth, but I mean, they just. And by the way, Gurley looked unbelievable running the ball. I mean, he looked like he might be the best running back in the SEC, but I just thought they got a little bit too conservative. Just tried to run the ball a little too much, maybe. And you saw there at the end when their backs were against the wall and they really turned Aaron Murray loose to throwing the ball. They scored in about 5 or 6 plays and just went right down the field and cut it within a field goal. So I just thought Georgia was a little too conservative there in the second half.
Yeah, I liked when they were balanced, where they, Gurley, good Lord. I know he had an injury there for a little bit, and he was out. Marshall came in, and he played pretty well. They've got the running backs. I feel like they've got the best tandem right now in the SEC. Now, I think Alabama with Yeldon, and eventually somebody else will step up. It'll probably be LT Tenpenny for the way Arkansas fans' luck is. But right now, number 2, in my opinion, as far as backs combos, I know it's a homer pick, but Jonathan Williams and Alex Collins both had over 130 yards on Saturday, so I wouldn't be too opposed to taking them second. But like you said about Georgia, I feel like that they had so many opportunities and they just squandered them.
They left a lot of points.
Clemson, I have to give them credit though, because as I was watching that game, I kept thinking, Georgia, you bunch of choking punks, but Taj Boyd made every play. 3 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown runs. Zach Brooks, Jonesboro product, played very well, had a nice long touchdown catch, and just made me want to vomit because he's not playing for Arkansas and he's playing for the number 8 team in the country. But Brad, I don't know if you're on board with that as far as Georgia and the way they looked, but I'm with you as far as their schedule goes, or as far as their outcome for the season goes. But they do play South Carolina this week and LSU 2 weeks from now. They've got a brutal SEC schedule.
Yeah, South Carolina's going to be a tough test. And LSU looked a lot better than I expected them to, because I actually thought TCU looked pretty good too. TCU is a sleeper pick to win the Big 12 after seeing Saturday. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with LSU. And so, in my opinion, they are a team that can make some noise there in the Big 12. LSU looked really good. But, yeah, you're right. Georgia does have a tough schedule, but, there's not very many teams in the SEC that don't.
Yeah, well, speaking of SEC teams that have a tough schedule, to open up, Alabama plays Virginia Tech 35-10, and everybody's talking about how bad Alabama played. I will grant you they only scored 2 touchdowns on offense. They had a punt return, a kickoff return, and an interception return for a touchdown in that game. Alabama's defense started right back where it left off, which I think is Nick Saban's plan all along. He wants his defense to dominate from the get-go, let his offense come along as is necessary. They still got TJ Yeldon, they've still got Amari Cooper, and they've still got quarterback McCarron, almost said McElroy. They've still got A.J. McCarron. I'm not worried about the offense from Alabama. I'm worried about the fact that you're going to have to try to score points on that defense.
Their defense is unbelievable. But that's every year. They get all the 5-star recruits. They stay for 2 years till they're draft eligible. They go pro, and then they fill in more 5-star recruits. So,
seriously.
So it's a given. It's Nick Saban's staple. I mean, he's a defensive coach and maybe one of the best ever defensively. But I agree with Brad. LSU was a whole lot better offensively than I ever thought they would be. They lost a lot defensively, but I was still surprised to see TCU score so many points. That's not usually normal for LSU defense to give up that many points, but Metzenberger looked really good for a young quarterback for LSU, and he's going to make them a lot better. But the real story of their offense is Blue. I mean, he is he's a stud.
He is really good. 27 points from TCU, though, Brad. They use 2 quarterbacks, and that's kind of hard. Sometimes they say if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. But in TCU's case, Paul Hall, their quarterback who came back from rehab last year, is a more of a pocket passer, and then the other quarterback, I can't remember his name right offhand, was a scrambler. And when you've got a game plan for literally two different styles of play on every other play, it seems like, coming in, that's kind of be tough. So 27 points I can understand. LSU scoring 37 to me, though, like Garrett has said, was sort of a surprise to me, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on both points there. LSU, man, I'm telling you, they looked really good offensively, but they may take a step back defensively. They lost a lot. The NFL off that defense. They're kind of like Alabama, though. They just kind of replace guys, but being the first game, maybe they just need to work the rust out a little bit. I promise you, by the time it gets down to the nitty-gritty, LSU will be right there. Man, I was really impressed with them. I'll be honest with you. I was really impressed with the way they looked. I know that they gave up 27, but again, I like to give credit to TCU a little bit. I think TCU is a pretty good football team, a team that will challenge for the Big 12 this year.
Well, now we're time to talk about the game of the week. I'm a little bit facetious when I say this because these other games are more important. That's why we left this one to fourth. 52-31, Texas A&M over Rice. Well, the big story of the game, obviously, in the second half, Johnny Manziel comes in from his just brutal suspension. It's just a life-changing event for him where he had to sit out 2 whole quarters of football. Comes in, throws 3 touchdown passes, gets himself suspended for the second time in the game in the fourth quarter because his coach pulled him for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, taunting there late in the game. He looked good when he was in, Brad, but he's still as immature as ever. It doesn't look like he really cares at all.
No, he doesn't. Not at all. But the thing about Johnny is he's never been held accountable, ever, for anything that he's ever done. And so even Texas A&M, to a certain point, is still not holding him accountable. When he walked by Kevin Sumlin and didn't acknowledge him, I wish Kevin Sumlin would have yanked a knot in his rear end, as you'd say in Arkansas, and got in his face. But, of course, he did send him a message by sitting him down, but at the same time, the game was in hand.
Yeah.
I think that Manziel, I don't think Texas A&M's as good as they were last year. I've said that over and over because of the losses that they had on defense. Even though their numbers weren't great last year on defense, they were a pretty opportunistic defense. And then the offensive line was rough, and Johnny Manziel got beat up a little bit by Rice, so I don't expect him to see anything but the ground against Alabama. I really think that Texas A&M is going to take a step back because of everything that they've been going through.
Yeah, I mean, Manziel, he had 3 touchdowns, like Mark said, but he only threw for 90-something yards. I mean, they were all just dumps, and then his receivers would just take it to the house. So his numbers were a little bit inflated as far as the touchdowns go. But I don't know, he just doesn't want to just mature and do the right thing and say the right things. After the game was over, they asked him about the taunting and the taunting penalty, and he basically said, "Hey, that's who I am. I don't care what people say." So, I mean, you got to think this is really going to hurt. As far as going to the NFL and getting drafted and those kind of things. We've seen it in the past where it's hurt other players' draft stock and how NFL owners think of him. So you got to think that he's doing nothing but hurting himself. So and Texas A&M for that matter, it's just bringing a lot of bad publicity to the school.
To me, I think Johnny Manziel, if he goes to the Combine and he just lights it up, and let's say the Combine, he'll do well in the Combine. I'm sure he'll put up some decent numbers. If he can throw the ball well enough, teams will be interested in him. But if things continue the way they are the rest of this year and he can't coexist with his team, and if things go the way they have been, he won't finish out the season with the team. But if he's able to somehow make it through, teams are going to look at him and think, let's weigh the pros and the cons. There's so many guys who in NFL history have been very talented, but they haven't been able to keep their crap together. And when you're Chad Johnson and you're good, but there's another guy who's every bit as good as you and won't cause the circus, it's not worth it to keep guys like Johnny Football around if he's not going to just absolutely dominate.
That's the thing with Manziel. He's got to be. I mean, if his personal issues, if they keep happening, then he's just got to be that much better than everyone else for it to be worth taking him. I mean, I agree with that point 100%. And that's the way it's going to have to be. But aside from the personal issues, what about his size? I mean, he has got to be the shortest, the smallest quarterback out there, and we've seen from from other quarterbacks like Michael Vick and other running quarterbacks, they have not been able to stay healthy. So even if he does get the personal issues fixed when he goes to pro, is he going to be able to run around and do all the things that he does in college and not get killed?
Brad, you mentioned
no.
Yeah. No, not in the NFL. I see, and look, these numbers and these things that we were just talking about, Brad, you still think that he's got a chance to be in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy, and I think that all this stuff is sort of, I don't want to say it's conspiring against him because it's his own fault. He's not going to even be in the ceremony. He won't be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. He only had 6 carries for 19 yards after rushing for 1,400 last year. He had 3 touchdowns on Saturday in that quarter of action that he got, but he only, like you said, he only passed for something like 90 yards, not a whole lot. His numbers aren't going to quite be the same. His offensive line's not as good, so he's not going to, and his receivers aren't as good, so he's not going to put up the same numbers. But I believe, Brad, even if he did, people are getting fatigued with Johnny Manziel. They're not going to vote him anywhere near the top of the Heisman Trophy voting this year. He's not going to repeat. He's not even going to be in New York.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think that he's a story. He's in the national forefront every day, as long as they win enough games. Now, here's the deal. If they don't win enough games, they're going to tear him apart. But if they do win enough games, then he'll probably be a part of the ceremony, but at the same time, I don't think he's going to win it this year no matter what.
Well,
you've seen guys like Matt Leinart come back, and he wasn't able to pull it off. Jason White, back-to-back years. I mean, there have been other guys that have tried. Tim Tebow, he tried to get it for 3 years, and he couldn't get it but one. So I don't think he's going to win it, but I do think he's going to be a story. He draws ratings, and that's what that thing's all about anyway. But they've got to win enough games. And after watching them Saturday, I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. And speaking of they'll tear him apart, what's going to happen 2 weeks from Saturday when Alabama comes to town after a bye week, having prepared for Johnny football, and just absolutely demolishes Johnny football and Texas A&M? Garrett, I think Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel's Heisman campaign comes to an end week 2. Well, it's week 3 for them, week 2 for Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they have 2 whole weeks to prepare for Johnny Manziel. I mean, I think that's a huge...
And that's like they haven't done that all offseason.
I mean, they've been thinking about this game since last year. So, I mean, just knowing Alabama's defense, knowing Nick Saban, you know they're going to be very well prepared. Manziel better just stay in the pocket. He just better come in the game thinking, hey, I'm going to stay in the pocket and I'm going to try and throw that way. And because no other defense, aside maybe from LSU, has the speed from defensive linemen and linebackers to stay with Manziel. But Alabama does. I mean, it's going to be very hard. They're not going to let him get outside and break down with the run.
And Brad, you and I have both talked about this ad nauseum. And Alabama, as good as they are, and as much praise as we're heaping on them right now about how they're going to stop Johnny Manziel, they couldn't do it last year. So there's a chance that Johnny Manziel is still going to put up some decent numbers. But to me, you give Alabama one of those things that Nick Saban's been famous for. You beat him, and you come back the next year and you get punished. And I feel like that's what's going to happen. And I think you said that from the get-go as well with Alabama against Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah, I believe that. I think Alabama will go in and they will stomp a mud hole in him. Now, they may not beat him that bad, but I believe that they're going to get their revenge on Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel. And, I mean, Nick Saban at this point, he's the best, and it's hard to beat the best twice in a row. And so I don't think Texas A&M has a shot come the 14th.
Man, well, we've run out of time. We have talked overtime today, and we'll be back on Wednesday to do more of it. We're looking forward to football season. As you can tell, sometimes in the summer we're struggling to get to that hour mark, and here we are 5 minutes over, and we just go all day about talking football. So we've got plenty more to talk about on Wednesday. We'll jump ahead to Samford. I'll be honest with you, Arkansas is going to beat the brakes off of I almost said Stanford. They wouldn't beat Stanford, off of Samford. So we'll probably talk in more general terms about what we expect, kind of like what we did against Louisiana Lafayette. And we'll look forward to the rest of the college football slate on Saturday, we'll look at more high school football, and we'll preview the week in the NFL as well, because fantasy football drafts, Garrett, you and I and Brad have our last one tonight, and it's going to be a big deal. You guys just get ready for second place, because that trophy's coming to my house this year, unless Brad finds a way to cheat again.
So we both can win second place?
Well, we'll see. We're looking forward to a good week of Sports Blitz. So we thank you for joining us today on this holiday. We'll be back on Wednesday at 11 o'clock for Maddie and Garrett and Brad. I'm Mark. So long. We'll see you at 11 o'clock on Wednesday at rivervalleyleader.com.